Good evening. Members of the public who wish to attend the meeting may join the meeting through the following links. They can be found on the website under School Committee Notices and Agendas for Upcoming Meetings under tonight's School Committee meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order by having a roll call of school committee members. Jennifer?
Hi, or here. What do you prefer?
Yeah, here's good. Hi's good. We're all a little informal, but that sounds good. Cassie?
Here.
Carly?
Here.
Heather?
Here.
Mike?
Here.
Bill?
Here.
And myself. I'm here. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to visitors. Per Governor Baker's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, the public will not be allowed to physically access this school committee meeting. Members of the public can access the meeting via Montague Community Television broadcast. We are live streaming on MCTV, and a recording of the meeting will be available on MCTV site as well as the GMRSD website. We would like to welcome our Zoom audience. Please remember, if you're in the audience via Zoom, to keep your video and your mics off. We also have the extension of the emergency open meeting law provisions that were signed into law as Chapter 20, Section 20 of the Acts of 2021 that permits bodies such as ours to continue to meet remotely. And the exact wording of that Chapter 20 regulation is included in the packet. So if anyone in the audience would like to read it, they're welcome to see it if they go on to our website. It's included in the packet as well. This would be the time that we would have public participation. Policy BEDH has been reinstated to hold public participation remotely, but no one has indicated a wish to do that this evening. So given that, I'd like to move on. I believe Brian. You're muted. Oh, there you go.
I just wanted to say congratulations to the advisors, staff members, student performers, and community volunteers who pulled off the high school, middle school production of Matilda last week. It was phenomenally professional, and I'm really proud of everybody having persisted. And it's nice to see not only members of the faculty, but members of the facility staff who actually played roles in the play and in the musical, and it was very impressive. So congratulations to everyone. Hopefully I have a little bit more information about what the elementary school are planning to do heading into opening, but the high school has planned tentative dates before their departure for Great Falls Middle School new family orientation. Right now is tentatively planned to be held on August 18th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. and Turner's Falls High School 9th grade orientation on Thursday, August 19th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. At this particular point, there's no further guidance regarding COVID safety expectations for the fall that have been released by DESE. Last we heard from the commissioner, they were planning on going to school, as normal. I would anticipate that there's going to probably be some requirements for masking for unvaccinated students, depending on the presence of the virus in the area, but we've received nothing from DESE at this particular point in time, or the CDC or Massachusetts Department of Public Health. We're very interested. I do believe that the bus capacity limits in conversations with area superintendents were lifted back in May, but I just want to work with Kuzmeskis and actually give a call to the commissioner's office to confirm that, so that we can again begin to run the shuttle bus between Hillcrest and Sheffield at the start of the school year. As far as the presence of COVID in the area, it's just us, Montague, the town of Montague, and the town of Orange, with less than 5 cases in the last 14 days, and specifically there were no cases within the last week reported by our local Board of Health. In the state, in the last 14 days, there were 1,001 cases, and the percent positivity has gone down to 0.36% in the entire Commonwealth. And our local Board of Health shared that the percentage of fully vaccinated individuals in Franklin County is up to 59% as of July 8th, with 67% of individuals in Franklin County ages 12 and up having received at least one shot at this particular point in time. Facilities Director Heath Cummings has provided a written summary of the plans to address the floors at Gill Elementary, so I'd like to just read some excerpts from that summary. The project will be moving forward this summer with the town approval vote in the town meeting held so late in the year, and with most contractors having booked their work out for the summer, many were not available and only one company showed up for the bid walkthrough. This one particular company, however, was not certified yet to do projects over $150,000, and it takes up to 90 days, which would have put that project into the school year. Heath applied for an emergency waiver to bypass the bidding process so that we could reach out to vendors since no one came to the open building walkthrough. Very few of the vendors were available for the project this summer, and the ones that were available had timelines that, they needed to take a look and give us quotes that cut far into the project deadline of completion for the end of August. We ended up figuring out that if we only do the asbestos portions of the building, so getting the asbestos out of the building along with the entire hallway, it's about 60% asbestos and about 40% of the hallway that's a vinyl composite tile, we can complete the project this summer. We've elected to go that route and have awarded the project to vendors Compass Restoration for the asbestos abatement and Classic Seamless Floors for non-asbestos removal and a new floor install. Planning for the asbestos remediation is in place and the project begins soon. The rooms that are not being remediated will be used as storage for the building, and all items will be moved by the facility staff as soon as possible to begin the project at Gill. As far as staffing, I'm very pleased to introduce Joey Cottwright as the new assistant principal at Turners Falls High School and Great Falls Middle School, and Joey's joined us to just say hi to the committee.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your hard work and diligence on the behalf of the district, and I hope to join the team and put in just as much as hard work. So you'll see me along the trails helping the instructional core get stronger by supporting the climate of the building.
And Joey, thank you very much. Joey started officially this past Monday and has some overlap time with Assistant Principal Gaffigan. So they have been together this week, but I did want to thank Joey even before he got on. He served on the Principal Search Committee as we interviewed semifinalist candidates last week. Principal Search Committee is meeting over between today and tomorrow. A small group of me and a small group of dedicated staff members are serving to interview the finalists. We interviewed some today and some vetting will continue tomorrow. And we hope that within the next day or two that we'll be announcing a new principal for the high school. As you are aware from my previous report, Christine Limoges, our former Director of Teaching and Learning, has accepted a position in another school district. The position has been posted and we've assembled a team of 2 teachers, 2 principals, and 3 central office staff who will serve as the search committee to hire a new Director of Teaching and Learning for the district. And we're hopeful that we'll complete the search process, and appoint a new director by the end of next week. And that's it as far as the superintendent's report. I did also include in the packet the food service flyer for summer food service for the district. And so students are being fed every day at school for those who are in the summer programs. So summer food services are being provided at both Sheffield and the high school middle school. And then on Fridays, they deliver 5 breakfasts and 5 lunches out into this same areas in the community. And that's it for the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. And welcome, Mr. Cottwright. Nice to meet you. Business and operations report. I know Joanne has included a report, even though she was not able to join us this evening. I don't know, Brian, if she wanted any parts of that read, or because I certainly can do it if she'd like to.
No, she didn't indicate that. She just needed to include the warrants as the most important part of that report, and the warrants are follow right behind that report.
Yes, we will take care of those. Thank you. Any questions for Brian on his section of the meeting? Okay, thank you. Moving on to the school committee reports. The first one is the warrant subcommittee approval. And what we're doing this time is there are 5 of them because we're beginning to close the books on fiscal year 21 and also beginning to open the books on fiscal year 22. And as Joanne has noted, there will still be a bit more work during the summer to close out fiscal year 21 with final invoices, things that are coming in a little later in summer payroll. As soon as it's fully closed out, she will provide an updated operating statement on the fiscal year.
Jane, you froze. All right, it sounds like you're back.
Am I back? Okay. Every once in a while, my little computer system decides to mess with me. We have 5 AP warrants this evening, 4 of which are finishing out the last fiscal year and 1 of which is beginning on 2022. The first is AP 3138, dated 6/30/21 in the amount of $96,923.95. The second is AP 3139, also dated 6/30/21 for $240,648.92. AP 3140, 6/30/21 for $60,804.01. And the last for 6/30 is AP 3141 in the amount of $218,424.86. The fifth is AP 3201, dated 7/14/21 for $29,122.20. And if that's acceptable, I will entertain a motion to approve all at once. Any questions or comments? Bill?
In all of those instances, am I coming through clear?
Yes, you are.
In all of those instances, the names of the required signature names are going to be changed, correct? Because Haley is on every one of them.
Yes, because we've been working under the governor's order of not needing to have meetings in person, I have been the designated signer for the duration. So even though the names are still there, we voted to have me sign for the committee. And once we get through and reorganize our subcommittees this evening, thank you for reminding us. When we get to that, then we will establish if it's acceptable to the committee to have the subcommittee go in and sign again. Once we.
Thanks for going through that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've just been signing them away.
So moved.
Okay, Heather moved. Second.
Second, I'll second that.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, we do need to take a roll call vote for things, which has been a change in the regs, but we can do that. If I begin at the beginning. Jennifer?
Sorry, does it make sense for me to abstain at this point, or 'cause I don't have enough information one way or the other, or would you prefer I just say yes?
It's not, you can do whichever. It's absolutely allowed either way.
I think I'll abstain just because I don't.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
And just for future reference, in the packet, it only has the cover sheet, but in the business office, the entire packet of information on each of the bills that's being paid is available for any member to look at when you'd like to.
And I did take a look, a cursory look, but yeah, thank you.
There were a lot of them this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Cassie,
Yes.
Carly,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes,
Bill,
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you.
Say, Jane, before you move on, I do have a question for the superintendent on his report. How
Okay.
did the girls softball team do?
Oh, I forgot we haven't had a meeting since. So I was fortunate enough to drive out and arrive at the state championship game in Amesbury just as one of our outfielders was making an amazing catch. Each of the three outfielders really held that game together. We ended up going up 5-1. Amesbury made a comeback to bring it to 5-4. And in the last inning, they had a 2-out rally, and ultimately we ended up winning a state title. And congratulations to the girls softball team. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Good point. Yes, congratulations. Great. Okay. Next item of business is to assign subcommittee membership. And there is a list in your packet of the different subcommittees. Not all of them are active at every given moment, but generally speaking, we try to populate the committees so that they are available when they're needed. At our last meeting, we agreed to, for the negotiations subcommittee for custodial and food service, to leave it as it stands because we are currently engaged in negotiations. That group is active. So that group consists of myself, Cassie, and Carly, and we did approve that last time. Beginning at the top, we have a budget finance subcommittee. That subcommittee at times has been used. It hasn't been used as much recently, partly, I believe, because when we are working on budget, at each meeting, we get information on the budget. And then in January, when we have the budget ready to submit for the following fiscal year, we have a special meeting where the entire committee meets and goes through the line item budget line by line. And as always, Joanne Blyer is available to answer questions at any point. So I think this is one really, it depends on what the committee feels. If they would like to form this committee at this time, that's fine. If not, we certainly can decide at a later date to form it if people so wish. Any thoughts? Mike?
Just to say that the budget committee as a committee of the whole, so to speak, seems to have been working great. Having us, one of the, for those just tuning in to the school committee, one of the reasons we haven't had such a great need for a budget subcommittee is our arrangement with the towns about the budget. Typically, I mean, before we had the arrangement with the towns, knowing how much we were going to get each year, you had to come up with a budget that you thought you could pass, and you had to hide some stuff in case you couldn't. And it was a much more political activity. And since we made that arrangement, we just haven't had that kind of conflict. And we have the advantage of being able to accept the information as a whole from the superintendent and the business manager and the administration staff. So it's a much friendlier process. And in our situation, it sort of adds an extra step that isn't really necessary because we don't have to go through all the back and forth between which items are going to get subverted or moved or and all of that.
Thank you. Cassie?
Just a thought, you know, we still technically have an empty seat and we have somebody that has submitted a letter of interest. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking we may want to revisit some of these subcommittees after we've possibly filled that seat. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm just.
It does. It does. It certainly does make sense.
I know, you know, if she's appointed tonight, she'll have to be sworn in, so she won't technically be a member tonight.
Right. Because of that, I hadn't thought to postpone it in general. Our policy does say that the subcommittees will basically be filled at our reorganizational meeting. I do think that may be part of one of the policies we might want to re-examine and look at as to see what serves our purpose better. But I think that's a great point, Cassie, to allow when our new member gets sworn in, to certainly welcome them to join any of the subcommittees that they're interested in. Good point. Thank you. Jennifer, did I see your hand up?
Yes. Mike, when you say arrangement, are you referring to the affordable assessment? Okay, thanks.
And the other thing that occurred to me when Mike was speaking is, over at least the last several years, we've had something called the Civic Leaders Group that meets regularly during the school year. It's representatives from the Select Board, Finance Committee, of GILL, Montague, and the school committee, business managers, superintendent, school committee members. And we have an ongoing discussion about budgetary matters. During COVID, we did not meet, but I personally think I would like to see us in the fall at least to reconstitute that group and start doing that again. It's been a really successful way to communicate in an ongoing basis. So everybody knows exactly where things stand with everything that's budgetary. And that has also helped make it that the towns all understand where our budget issues are and how they're progressing. So I'd like to, I'm putting that on my agenda to look at in the future, I think. Okay, so unless someone has an objection, we will put this particular subcommittee on hold for the time being. The next one on the list is Building and Facilities Subcommittee. I believe that one as well has not been as active recently. I was going to look at my previous list to see where we stood in that respect.
I know I was chairing that group, and I think it was Mike Langneck and possibly Haley.
April Leopold, I think, was April spoke up and was sort of the force behind generating that committee. And really, one of the biggest issues was the air conditioning at Hillcrest.
Yeah.
And the other buildings, as a matter of fact. But yeah, we have not met for at least since April left.
Yes. Yes, and even though COVID gave us some new issues to deal with, things like the ventilation being improved everywhere has been a real plus. And having air conditioning as well has really served us well.
Sorry, I have a question. Is there a summary of these subcommittees that I can refer to that would give a sort of broader explanation of what they cover?
Not included in the packet. It's just the titles of them. I was looking today, now that you mention it, I was looking for a summary because it says there's something in the
We lost you, Jane.
Can you hear me again?
You're back.
Okay. Unfortunately, Tuesday nights are a bad night for my computer connection. Apparently everyone in GILL is using their computers at the same time. I didn't find a really concise explanation of what each of these subcommittees is responsible for. I think that's something that is important to do, however, to really, if there isn't one, then we should come up with one. I think again, it was designed, this is quite a few years ago, to again, do research into areas that people had questions about. Once we've gotten our new facilities manager, again, we get reports on a pretty regular basis. But it's certainly a subcommittee that we could activate again if people are interested at any point. Mike?
Just in general, and you were on the policy subcommittee that had to deal with this. We had a list of subcommittees in the policy manual that was like 20 some odd years old.
Right.
And that was removed. But what we've been doing, and I'm not sure, it may be stated in policy, but we've been setting out a charge for each subcommittee as it gets formed.
Yes.
Because we had standing subcommittees for a long time, even though the policy said we wouldn't have standing subcommittees, which so they often sort of set their own path as a standing committee. But since we don't do that anymore, we generally specify exactly what the committee is going to do, and we hope to have a time frame for when it will be accomplished, with the time going, or within a couple of months. So that kind of specific stuff will come up as we actually activate the subcommittees.
Thank you. Yes, we activate and give them the charge at the time. I do think when I was looking at it, though, I think it might be helpful with the tentative list to just have some general parameters for people when people are new, or like myself, when we look at them and think, gosh, that's been a while. I wonder why we did it or why we didn't. I mean, we have certain ones that we formulate every year, but I think that's probably a good suggestion. Thank you. Capital improvement and planning, we have a GIL liaison. They're not actually a voting member of the capital improvement and planning committee in GIL, and that in the recent past has been Bill. And how are you feeling about that, Bill?
Fine, since I've been appointed by the town to fill that position, and I do vote.
Okay, yes. Oh, you do have a vote. That's right. GIL's is different than Montague's, I believe. They're worded differently, but you'll be happy to continue?
Yes, that's
Thank you
fine.
so much. And Montague also is able to have a liaison to the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. And I believe, unless I'm mistaken, the Montague one is more of a liaison. It's not necessarily a voting member. And I believe perhaps the last one who filled that position was Mike. Am I correct?
Yeah, we might have had somebody, but right, it's not a voting member, and Heath and Joanne do a fabulous job, as does this is no slight on GIL. I don't know how their things work. I have no reason to think it isn't just as fabulous, but they've really come together with organizing the Capital Improvements Committee. There's been a lot more outreach. It used to, I mean, back when I was first on 15 years ago, it was a little labyrinthine, but nowadays there's a lot of outreach. They're very central. Steve Ellis is part of it and on top of it. So it's been a much more active partnership between the administrative and the town folks. So the liaisoning, again, it's kind of, it would be dumbing it down in a sense. Maybe not the best phrase to use, but those guys do a great job, and they report very in great detail, as you saw in this particular packet, about what's going on. So I'm not sure, I guess I would say, and based on my own experience of it, that liaison adds much to the process as it's now constituted.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Okay. The next subcommittee is the GIC subcommittee, which is the GIC represents health insurance for employees and retirees. And that subcommittee, even though the chair and the superintendent can be ad hoc on any of the subcommittees, I am not allowed to be have any connection to that committee, because as a retired teacher, I do take health insurance through the district. So I'm not involved with that one. And I believe that needs to be reconstituted each year. I believe. We did have one last year, and we, once their work was done, we disbanded the subcommittee. So we probably should set another subcommittee. Generally speaking, 3 members for a subcommittee is preferred. In that way, 2 members constitute a quorum of the subcommittee. So we usually have 3 members, and one of them is designated as chair. So do we have 3 people who would feel they could work as part of that subcommittee?
You know, I was on it last year and Timmy as well. I can't speak for Timmy. I'm happy to continue with it, especially because it requires little.
I believe it meets in the spring, does it usually, or the winter, Bill?
Yep,
Okay, so you're willing to continue?
yep.
Okay. And I certainly can ask Timmy at a later point if she's still interested. It would be helpful to have a third member.
I can do it.
Heather, thank you. Next on the list are our other negotiating subcommittees. As I said, custodial and food service are still remain the same as last year. We will need a Unit A and a Unit C group. Unit A is teachers and other associated professionals, and Unit C is paraprofessionals, secretarial staff, and et cetera. Did you have a thought, Mike?
Yes, I'm volunteering for the Unit A subcommittee. And
Oh.
just as a note, I think we actually need to meet to talk about some loose ends from the last go around and start preparing for the next one.
Yes, because that's one of the two contracts that will need to be redone this, hopefully by the end of the school year if possible. Yes. So Mike.
Can
was
you
on-
explain, oops, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Can you explain the role of the subcommittee?
A negotiation subcommittee?
Yeah.
The school committee has a negotiating subcommittee and the Teachers Association has a negotiating subcommittee. They meet to redo the contract, which generally, most of our contracts are good for 3 years. And we like to try to have the new contract ready to begin when the old one expires. We're not always successful with that. This last time, this A and C didn't happen as soon as we would have liked because COVID intervened in it.
So these are contract negotiations with the union.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Our entire committee set parameters, but then the subcommittee does the actual meeting and negotiating. Any decisions are brought back to the full committee to be voted on before it's official. And when those committees meet, the superintendent, the business administrator are there in an advisory capacity to answer questions, which we wouldn't necessarily have all the information on. Generally
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to explain that.
Oh, no, it's important. Because, yeah.
I'm happy to volunteer for one of those.
Okay.
It doesn't matter to me which one.
Okay. I'm willing to do both. I know the chair can be ex officio, but to me, it makes more sense to be on it as chair because ex officio means you can show up when you feel like it, sort of, and I just think that's counterproductive. If someone isn't there for all the meetings, it isn't very helpful to come in occasionally and as an observer or to give an opinion that may or may not be appropriate at the time. So I'm willing to do both of them if that's acceptable. And so Jennifer has said she'll do either of those. Do I have anyone else who has a preference for either Unit A or Unit C negotiations?
I was on Unit C before. I was chairing it, and I can stay on to do that.
Okay. Cassie, thank you. And would you like to remain chair?
That's fine.
Okay. So Jennifer, do you have a preference, A or C?
Nope. I really don't. Does it make sense to do both? And if so, what is the commitment? Excuse me. What does the commitment look like for that in terms of hours?
It varies depending on the time of year. It can be a fair amount of commitment to meetings and they need to be after the school day, during the school year. I mean, if we're meeting in the summer or vacation, then it can be during the day, but otherwise it has to be at the end of the day at early evening. Usually it starts. It is a pretty heavy commitment.
Okay, then I'm gonna stick with one.
Yeah, I think.
When we're in the midst of negotiating, it's usually 2 or 3 times a month, I would say.
Oh, that's not a lot.
No. Well, and if you'd like to, learn the ropes.
Over the course of 2 years, though, it's 2 or 3 meetings a month for 2 years.
Right. It can take up to 2 years.
I think 2 or 3 meetings on is acceptable. So unless there are other people interested, I will volunteer for both. If
Okay.
other people are interested, I will just choose one, and you can choose that for me. I don't care.
That will be great.
So moved.
I will put you down for both. We're all good with that. And Mike, would you like to be chair again of that subcommittee? That'd be great. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. That's great. It certainly is a good way to learn how these things work.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of negotiations in general, just the process.
Yeah. Yes, it's educational. It is. The next one is the policy subcommittee. That has been very active up until COVID. We've been meeting pretty regularly because policies need to be updated regularly, and the Mass Association of School Committees keeps us updated on what needs to be updated. And occasionally, like this evening, we'll bring a policy to the full committee if the policy subcommittee hasn't been meeting recently to deal with it first. Otherwise, usually the policy subcommittee goes through the changes necessary, comes up with suggested language, and brings them back to the full committee. Cassie?
I'm not volunteering to be on it, but I just wanted to put that out there for Jennifer and possibly anyone that fills a seat. When I first came on years ago, I served on the policy subcommittee, and it was an awesome way to learn about the policies in the district and why we have them. So I don't want to, Jennifer, you just, volunteered for 2 negotiation subcommittees, so I'm certainly not trying to put more on your plate, but I just wanted to put that out there because I found that it was a really great learning experience for a new member. So just to put that out there.
And again, 3 members works pretty well. I'm more than happy to do that because I really need to be aware of all the intricacies of the policies anyway as chair. So it's something that I need to do as well. Heather?
I'll stick with it.
Oh, thank you so much. Heather, our expert on the computer, she's able to keep us updated as we go along. So by the time the meeting ends, it is done. It is just amazing. Thank you. So perhaps I will check with our new member unless somebody else is interested in filling that slot. I mean, it's possible to do the subcommittees with 2. We don't have a huge school committee. It is possible. Then you just have to make sure that at any time that both members are able to be there. That's the only stipulation with that. So we can come back to that. The only other one remaining is the warrant subcommittee. That in pre-COVID times is composed of 3 people. Regional school committees are able to have 3 people as official signers for the AP warrants, which are the accounts payable, so the bills get paid. And generally speaking, the timing is about the same as just before our school committee meeting. So then, as we did tonight, the entire committee can approve the signing of them. It can be signed by 3 people, but the entire committee has to approve that once it's done. And it involves, that we all get, when the warrants are prepared, we all get an email with the complete warrant listed within the email. So all the details are there. And then if committee members have any questions that are deeper than that, then they contact the business office. So what we basically need for that is 3 people that would be available to go over those on email and then go and sign.
I'm fine staying with that too.
Okay, thank you. And I do believe the regulation is 3. I think Carly might have been on that. Am I correct, Carly?
Yes, but I mean, I can try. I just have a lot going on right now. So if we need it, I will do it, but I'd rather not add anything more to my plate.
I can do it. If I'm,
I was unstable again. Am I back?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I think for some people, the timing might be an issue to get in there during the business day.
no, I said I can do it, Jane.
Oh,
I can
okay.
I can also offer to be on the policy subcommittee.
Okay. So warrant subcommittee is Heather, Bill. Did we have someone else when I was not hearing, or Mike? You would,
Yeah, I can do it. I mean, I'm in the area and I have to sign warrants anyway.
okay,
Some of the ones that you can't, so.
yes, yes. Yes,
And
then
but it's handled by email, did you say?
the information is all sent out on an email. When the person in the business office, it was Nicole, it'll be someone else. When they finish it, she sends it out in an email, so it can all
Yep.
be viewed there, or people can go in and see a paper copy in the business office, and then people just have to sign it.
And they're approved at the school committee meeting, so they don't meet separately. Yeah, no problem.
No, that was decided, I believe, or did they meet? I guess they used to. Now that I remember, COVID seems to have wiped out my memory to pre-COVID activities. I think actually the warrant subcommittee met for just before the full committee and to just approve it together. But they didn't need to meet and go over them all. It was just a very short, a very brief meeting just before the actual meeting took place. And I expect I'll have to check into that, because until we're meeting in person, it may still need to be just going in to sign. But that was a good reminder. It's about, just a very short 5 or 10 minutes ahead of the regular meeting, and then we approve them. And then, as Mike said, there isn't a committee for signing payroll. That's the chair, and payroll and insurances, but anything that I receive as a retired teacher, Mike signs it in my place. He's our treasurer, so that's how we accomplish that. I think that pretty well does it. We have not subcommittees, but the 6-town regionalization planning board. Bill has been on that since the beginning of that as a GILL representative. And I believe we had someone who indicated they would like to be the Montague representative on that recently. It was not at a full meeting, so they might volunteer now if they'd like to.
I volunteered and I actually attended the facilities and
Transportation subcommittee meeting tonight?
Subcommittee meeting prior to this, so I'll do that.
Okay, so thank you. Cassie will be the Montague rep. And the only other thing at the moment, we have a representative to the Collaborative for Educational Services. They meet once a month. I think Bill has also been doing that, if I'm correct.
Yes, I have been doing.
Are you still willing to do that?
Oh, yeah, it's exciting.
I could tell, yes. All right, thank you. So I think we are pretty well set then. Thank you all, I appreciate it. It's a lot of organizing, and it doesn't seem like there are that many people on our full committee once we get down to trying to populate subcommittees, especially negotiating, but I think we're good. Mike?
Speaking of the negotiating subcommittee, and if this is out of order, it could wait till another time, but I was hoping maybe we could, unless there's an executive session, maybe we could meet starting at 6 o'clock before the next school committee meeting. And I'll say, if you'd like me to ask this later, we could do that some other time. in the meeting. But I figured since we're on,
Right, no, that's would involve subcommittees, if that's workable for people.
Brian, Jennifer, and you at this point.
Yeah.
And Joanne, but I don't think Joanne would necessarily be critical to that one. You available, Brian? Cool. All right, I'll send.
Will that work for you, Jennifer?
Yes.
Excellent.
Mike, I'm sorry, which subcommittee is that?
The Unit A, no negotiation.
Yes.
Cool. I will contact Sabrina to get it posted.
Yes, any of these, Jennifer, need to be posted publicly. Our subcommittee, when we meet just ourselves to talk about how the process might go. And then when we meet with the rest of the representatives from the Teachers Association, then we also will post all those. Sabrina?
I just wanted to say that, hi. I am only here Wednesday and Thursday this week because my son's getting married on Saturday.
Okay.
And I'm only here Monday and Tuesday of next week. So if you need me for anything, don't delay.
Okay.
All
Just
right,
make
thanks.
decisions quickly and get them. And congratulations to your son. Thank you for letting us know.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to the next item.
Jane,
Yes.
since we were just talking about the Six-Town Regional representative, me, I just want to report that the educational subcommittee of that larger group will be receiving the Mars Group consultant report tentatively on July 20th. And then we will have a meeting July 29th to discuss that. And I'm not sure if that is also the public forum, but if it isn't, the public forum will be following shortly after that. So we're looking at the end of July to have the complete report from the educational standpoint. And that should be interesting.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that information and the date. And since, do you know, Bill, if those are posted as public?
They are posted. They're all official public meetings posted on the Six-Town Regional website, which I should be able to recite to you what it is, but I'm afraid I can't right now.
I believe there's a link on our website to get to that. Correct, Brian?
There is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The other thing that we'll have to keep in mind, if it's one that members of the school committee would like to go, even if we're in the audience, we need to post it as a school committee meeting in case we get a quorum there. So that's always something to be cautious about. Just I'll make a note that we'll post it as such just in case. So there's no concern about that. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the business section, introduction of school committee member Jennifer Warius. Thank you so much for joining us and joining our subcommittees. You're just going to really have a good time. We welcome you. We're so happy you joined us. Would you like to say anything?
I would like to say I'm happy to be here and thank you for the warm welcome. And yeah, hopefully I can be useful.
Thank you. We appreciate it. It's always nice to have new members join us. And as the second item, we have a letter of interest about a possible appointment. And I think we have the only one letter of interest we received was from Ms. Joanna May Booty. And I believe she's in our audience, our virtual audience.
I'm
And
here. Hi, everyone.
hi, thank you for joining us this evening.
Happy to be here.
Joanna sent us a letter of interest to fill the Montague vacancy that was left after the voting, and I was very pleased to see that. And so I guess our next job will be I will entertain a motion to appoint Joanna to the vacancy that's on the committee for the Montague Town representative.
So moved.
That was
Second.
Cassie.
Cassie and Mike.
Cassie moved it and Mike seconded it. We try when we're virtual, we try to repeat who's doing it. So Sabrina's taking notes and so she knows whose voice if she's trying to be writing or typing at the same time. Any discussion, questions or comments? Again, thank you so much. We're very pleased to have you. And once we vote you in, I'll give you a short version of how things go from here. And
Wonderful.
we need to have a roll call vote. All those in favor, Jennifer,
Yes.
Cassie,
Yes.
Carly,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
and myself. Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for your interest, Joanna. And what happens is whenever it's convenient for you, you need to go to the Montague Town Hall and the town clerk will swear you in. And then what we will do is Brian and I, as superintendent and chair, will see what works for you to have an orientation meeting. We can give you some information to read. We can also answer brief questions. I'm sure you'll have more as you go along, but we can get it started.
Sure.
And we'll check in with you shortly. And then Sabrina is secretary for the school committee. So if she has your mailing address as well as other information, then when things need to get mailed to the committee, she sends them out for us.
Wonderful. So I can, I know I received an email from Tina, but if you'd like, I can send all my information to Tina and CC Sabrina or whatever works best, whatever you think. I don't know if you have an address for my letter of interest. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
I don't believe I saw an address. I have your email, I have your phone number, but I don't think, and Sabrina just needs that for mailings.
I can say it now if you'd like. It's 10 Federal Street in Millers Falls.
Okay.
But I'm happy to connect on email with whoever needs to.
Okay, and that's great. And then on our site, your school committee email address will be there in case people want to communicate with you. And when I send something out, the entire committee, so it will go to you. The public, if they want to address the entire committee, the public needs to send it through our school committee secretary, and that's Heather, otherwise.
Wonderful. So yeah, I'll probably have a bunch of questions. I have done negotiations for union bargaining, so it was nice to hear that that's some stuff I'll be familiar with, and higher education actually. But I could have some questions that I could give for both you and Brian, so I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for welcoming me to your group.
We're very glad to have you, very glad. So that's great. So by our next meeting, then you can not only see us and listen, but you can also talk and vote. All right. Thank you so much, Joanna.
Have a great night, everyone. Take care. See you soon.
Thank you. I'm always anxious when we get new members to have them start right away, but sort of have to follow the rules. But that's great. So now we're set. We have a full complement because Timmy rejoined us at the last election from GILL. So now we have all 9 members. So that's great. Next item on business is a discussion about addressing pandemic learning loss. Anything current on that, Brian?
Yeah, once again, wanted to send out my great debt of gratitude that I owe Diane Ellis in the absence of the director of teaching and learning, that she's been here sometimes until 9 or 10 o'clock at night, contacting families endlessly I think within one day, she and Jimena got another 15 kids to enroll in a single day. And her effort has been tireless, and I am so appreciative So yes, I'd like to turn it over to Diane to just give a very brief summary of how the first couple of weeks have gone, or anything else that she would like to add in here. Diane, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Jennifer as a new member of the committee, and Joanna for stepping forward in the community. I actually had somebody ask me earlier today if an employee could be a school committee member because they thought of just the importance of the work. And I said, well, you can't because it's a conflict of interest, but it's just appreciate the dedication of the school committee and people coming forward. So thank you. I managed to click off my screen, so just let me look at my other screen as I'm not looking at my laptop. But we have a total of 187 students participating in some type of summer programming through the district. And so between special education students in specific programs, between credit recovery, our middle school tutorial program, we had a very fun peer leader program that was offered by Sheffield School in June, which seems like a long time ago, but that was just last month. We have this wonderful youth, Rising Star Youth Leaders, where we have, it's actually a total of 15 of them who are participating at the pre-K to rising grade 6 program at Sheffield. So they have little tie-dye uniforms. They're handing out these little care card coupons and practicing giving praise to students. So it's been a very exciting thing to see and have happen. We have different numbers of students participating in the Sheffield program. So we broke it out to 3 2-week sessions for a total of 6 weeks. So those numbers vary between 85 students per session to 87 students to, I think the third week we have a few less, maybe it's 78 students or something. So overall the numbers are very favorable. We have a new student starting tomorrow. So I think as word is out in the community, I did put together a Google survey form to survey staff, as well as our youth leaders on their experience, on kind of gathering some feedback from them in case there's some mid-summer course corrections that we need to make. And overall, you know, people have been very positive. People are excited that we're offering the enrichment opportunities to students, and that we're offering a fuller day of programming after this year of pandemic learning loss or concerns for learning loss. I've also been working with the building principals on kind of building out a document where all of our summer reading logs can live, and making sure that we're really promoting utilization of the iReady program that has been in place. I know if Melissa Petrat was on the line, she would be touting the value of the iReady program. It has I don't want to say kind of almost a video game quality to it, but kids get on and, you know, they can practice their ELA and their math skills. We definitely use that program. We were in remote, and we've seen gains with students who are consistently using that. Plus we're gathering important data on skill areas that kids have developed as well as they need to develop. So there's been a lot of work going on, as Brian had said. You know, we're really trying to also find out who we're not connecting with. So we've got pretty good data on the students who are connected to our district programs. There's definitely performance pattern differences in our secondary level for students who are electing to do a remote-only tutorial program or a remote-only credit recovery. So there's been a lot of communication with families and just showing the data and saying, we're really recommending that your student is in person. That I think that after this year of students being in different learning models, one thing that we know is that I think that contact time with the teacher is important. And I also think that our students, and I know that they talked about this in the pandemic, the PRAC committee, Pandemic Response Advisory Committee, I had to get that acronym. You know, that our kids have sort of developed, you know, just some interesting hobbies or traits while they've been at home learning. You know, there's the distraction of the phone, there's the TV, there's the music. So we do think that there's definitely improved performance. I was on this call tonight. I've been busy sending emails to parents just sort of saying, we really want to see your student in person. I know you signed up for remote learning this summer. We really want to see your student in person. We've also, I failed to mention earlier, we also have students participating in the Montague Parks and Rec program, and we have reached out to those families and just promoting summer reading and engagement in summer learning. And the last thing I wanted to say, and we're still looking at some of the messaging and just kind of reminding families, we did purchase a whole number of books that were sent home, but with the end of the year, we want to make sure that the messaging around here's these beautiful books from the Montague, GILL-Montague schools, and we want students to be, you know, reading books, trading books, you know. So we want to make sure that that is happening as well. So we probably will start doing some promotional work around those summer reading books just to make sure that we're getting kind of the attention they deserve. So, and I have bags of these books in my car. So if any of you have children and your children don't have their GILL-Montague books, I will deliver them.
Thank you. Thank you, Diane. It's really, it's so great to, as I said before, when we had the list before us, it's so great to have so many options for summer programs for our students, and to have that many enrolled is very positive. Thank you so much. And nice that you're following up with things too, and keeping it in people's vision that we're doing this. Cassie?
I just had a question, Diane. You said that it was broken up into 3 two-week sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Is there still an opportunity for families to get into other sessions? I'm just wondering. Not that I'm asking personally. I'm just.
Yes. Some of the sessions are. We have greater enrollment in some of the grade levels than other levels. So I'm saying that, but I should probably put a little caveat there, because, so I will say in rising grade 5, there's space. There's less space in first grade. So, you know, what we would encourage any family to do is submit an application, and then we would try to make room for them. Even in some of those groups that are a little bit heavier, have higher enrollment, maybe we could do some moving of staff to make sure that we have the coverage. And as folks maybe know, that we have really wonderful programming. We have like little ukulele playing and things going on in the afternoon enrichments. So it's just nice to see. And we have had some hiccups, and I want to just be clear on that. That's why I wanted to put that little staff feedback document out there, because we've basically melded our 21st Century After School program, where we had that grant in place, with our district program. And so there was kind of a little bit of a marriage of programming. And so looking at everything from duty schedules to indoor recess to what the coverage looks like, it's just a bigger program than what we've run at Sheffield School before. And so again, credit to the staff at Sheffield School, the custodians, the admin assistant, the principal, because it's not been a quiet summer for them over there. Mm-hmm. Not at all. Sometimes.
Just as a reminder, how might someone access one of those applications if they were interested right now?
They could just call the school or call the student services office, so my office, and we could send them an application. We did do a fair amount of outreach, but also, and we are providing transportation from community locations, which has also helped make the program more accessible this summer.
Always, yes. Thank you so much. Anyone else have questions or comments for Diane? All right, thank you again. We appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thanks, Diane.
Next on our list under business, discussion about issues of equity. Any current information about that, Brian?
No, there's nothing new other than I'm obviously pleased to welcome Mr. Cartwright aboard, and also pleased that he he's fluent in Spanish, so that'll be helpful at the high school, be helpful in any of our schools. We've managed to add a couple of staff members over the course of this year who have fluency in another language, and so that's helpful to diversify the cultural makeup of our faculty and staff, having added 4 staff members over the course of the last few months who help us in that cause. There's no new information to report. We're in the process of planning for professional development for next year, and so the next time that I believe that I'll have an update on this will probably be after the administrative retreat at the beginning of August, when I feel like we'll be closer to having the annual professional development plan locked down. So I'll provide a little bit more information at subsequent meetings about that. And then each of the schools will have something related to dealing with issues of equity in their building-based plan, and it will also be part of our district strategic plan, probably in perpetuity.
Thank you. Any questions for Brian? Okay. Next on our list is the school committee meetings calendar. There is a tentative calendar in your packet. We can discuss it now and vote at our next meeting, or whatever people wish. There are a couple of question marks and areas that we might need to talk about decision making. In terms of our July meetings, we often still have the 2. We continue our Tuesday and Thursday of the month. Sometimes in August, we've had a special meeting in the middle of August, and it's been a working session as opposed to a regular meeting, where we've worked basically on things like the school committee goals for the upcoming year, or an extension of them for several years. What we might want to think about is, I know the district is going to be establishing new strategic goals, because our last plan was 2018 to 2021. Is that correct, Brian?
Yeah, it was 2017 to 2020, and the school committee goals were 2018 to 2021. As you remember, I asked the committee to extend the initial strategic plan for another year, because some of those items had not been brought to fruition because of the pandemic. So we just began the process the other day as an administrative team of examining the data that we've gathered currently. And one of the things that came up was making sure that we're in alignment with school committee goals as well. So we've gathered information from various stakeholder groups over the course of the year and into the end of the year, as well as the information we have about the contexts that students will be learning in over the course of the next 2 to 3 years as drivers for our district goals. But that the school committee goals went from 2018 to 2021, so they both sort of end at the same time. So it would make sense for the school committee to engage in a conversation about their goals and allow us to be able to work with the school committee to make sure that we're aligning our goals with school committee goals.
Absolutely. Cassie?
Letter E on the agenda was discussion of in-person and remote school committee meetings.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I skip? I did, didn't I? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I was just thinking, because I know there were some that were moved around, if we want to have that discussion first, so that we can, because that might play a role into what people think about planning the calendar, at least in the near future.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. I was so engrossed in where we were that I missed it. Yes, we were going to continue. We have been discussing that at each meeting. I know the last time we asked, was a mix of people's views, whether during the summer it would make it more efficient to continue to be able to meet virtually in case people were on vacation, or depending on their schedules with family. What are people thinking at this time? Mike?
If I recall, the district won't be changing any of its regulations or policies, practices around public meetings, et cetera, until September. And I mean, for reasons already stated, I would support continuing remote meeting until then. Once people start coming back, I will probably feel differently, but we could review that then.
Okay, we did say we'd keep it on there, but we had expressed the idea that probably September. I know Tina and the rest of the tech department have been working very continuously to get our meeting room set up in a more user-friendly, socially distant, sanitized manner. We used to share microphones, 2 people to a microphone. That won't be happening. They've ordered extra microphones, new tables to allow more space between our seats, and then setting up a public place for the public to be there as well. It is a rather small room. So, but I know they're still working on it, and I know their current plan looking toward the future is that by September, when if we want to reconsider whether we want to change it to in-person, all the pieces should be in place. I know they have to redo the wiring when there are more microphones. That was always an issue, which is why we moved to the room we're in now. So the wiring can stay and be undisturbed. It keeps the equipment in a better condition. Any other thoughts at the moment? Whether continue with the status quo or Bill?
Having been in a hospital today, places like that require, even though they're open, require masks of everybody. So you might throw that into the mix. Personally, I think that the time for us to start meeting in person is definitely approaching, and I'll support it when it happens.
Thank you. Yes, I had thought about the mask thing when I was considering the microphones, because ever since I've been on committee, the microphones have been challenging in terms of making it clear to the listening public at home when it's broadcast. It's not always easy to hear us clearly. And I was imagining how well we might be heard if we also had masks as well as going through the microphones. It didn't encourage me, but I'm sure we could if we needed to. Perhaps I should say, is anyone of the opinion that we should try to get back in person more immediately? Okay, not seeing any opinion in that respect. Again, I think we'll still put it on in case there's any new developments, in case there's any new questions, or if Tina has any new ideas to share with us about how it will work when we are back there. Bill?
I'm reluctant on the in-person aspect of it, only because of our inability, as expressed by Tina in the past conversations, of us to successfully pull this off and have some remote, some in-person, and have it inclusive. So I think inclusiveness and integrity of the process requires that either we're all in or not.
Thank you. That's a good point. And I think that was something that came up in terms of being inclusive and also being as clear as possible, that people could participate in discussions and hear clearly, is one of the things that, is more of a challenge, I guess, when we have a mixture with the committee. It becomes different. Okay, we will continue putting it on the agenda though, and we will look to the future for that. And thank you, Cassie, for that reminder. Going to the school committee meetings calendar now in the appropriate spot. I guess what occurred to me when I was thinking about the idea of looking at our goals, looking at the district goals, I was wondering if, unless someone else had a different suggestion, if the committee might be willing for us to put on our next agenda, which is the 27th of July, a beginning discussion about our goals moving forward. And then we would have the option of either having the extra meeting in August and really digging into them more deeply, or we could simply put it on our other agendas in August and continue the discussion until we had what we were most satisfied with. Any thoughts about that? Mike,
I like the idea.
like that idea? You know, we could begin, we could put in our last goals, what we had formalized, and then at our next July meeting, we could discuss what we're thinking in terms of either extending or changing, and give people a chance to think about it before we made formal decisions. Okay. Anyone else have an opinion about that? Positive or negative, Jennifer?
That sounds good. When you refer to goals that you've already sort of established, is there a place where I can reference those?
I believe they should be in the notebook that we gave you.
Okay, so.
And I will send it out to the committee as a separate document as well, so that everybody has, it's a quick reference 2-page document that's, you know, pretty clear and accessible.
Right, and
Okay,
maybe
thank you.
the school committee goals as well as the district strategic goals.
Yep.
The two of them
I
together
see
would be helpful.
this giant like model system, but I didn't see like a quick goal. So thank you. That's awesome.
There's a lot of documents in there, Jennifer. You haven't memorized them all, gosh. I still have to look them up as I go along, but that would be helpful, Brian, if we could have those. And if people are willing, we will put it on our next agenda to begin looking at and think about it. And then by the end of August, we'll have it formalized. And by then the administration, I expect, Brian, will have worked through the strategic plan pretty much.
We began discussing, you know, we basically created a parking lot the other day in a brainstorm, because obviously we're absent some pretty significant members of an administrative team, and I can't guarantee that they will be on board when we do our administrative retreat. However, to have it prepared by the middle to the end of September is really necessary, because teachers, administrators, and everybody has to begin building their goals, their student learning and professional practice goals, to make sure that they're aligned with the district and building-based plans. Mm-hmm. So we'd be looking at continuing the process of developing the district strategic plan in through the month of August, but with much of the work being done, and we can share drafts of what we have after the admin retreat with the committee.
That would be great.
And if the committee has any feedback for our retreat, from, you know, having it on the agenda for the 27th is really helpful, because if you guys have already made a decision or have hashed out some minor changes, then we can update that document either as an annual document or a longer term document, and begin our process with something in mind that allows us to be able to align with the objectives of the committee. So either way works. That's great.
Okay, great. So I will put it on the next agenda, and then we'll keep it on in August. I guess the next important question before we think about formalizing our calendar is, at this point, we have a regular meeting August 10th and a regular meeting on the 24th. Do people feel the need for the additional meeting in the middle of August on the 17th to focus more specifically on the goals, or are people feeling that we could work at it a bit each time and be done by the end of August without an extra meeting?
I don't know if it matters, but I'll be on vacation that middle week.
Okay. I mean, we can always, if we work on them next time in early August, if we find we're needing an extra meeting, I think we could always schedule one. I mean, that's always a possibility anyway, with school committee meetings if necessary. So if it's acceptable, we'll leave it to the 2 regular meetings for now. The other questions that came up when looking at the calendar, well, just to note, the November 3 to 6 is not a meeting, but it's the MASC conference, the joint conference. It's virtual, but it's also in person this year. So if people are thinking about attending either way, that's a possibility, whether you'd like to go in person or do it virtually. In February, we ran into a little snag because we meet the second Tuesday and the fourth Tuesday. The fourth Tuesday is during school vacation, and that can be a little trickier. So if we're thinking about moving that one instead of meeting,
The same is true in December as well. The December 28th meeting also falls on the holiday.
that's right, it does. It's during the holiday week.
And in looking at the November date, the Tuesday, the 23rd is the night before the Thanksgiving break.
Yeah,
I
we
don't-
have done that in the past, and it
Okay.
hasn't been an issue unless somebody would like us to change it, but thank you for mentioning it.
Okay.
But the other two during vacation can be an issue, especially if we're meeting in person, because then the building has to be available, and people have to be available if it might get in the way of any other vacations. So I guess the question there would be, in December, we have a meeting on the 14th. Do we want to have the second one on the 21st? Would that be more reasonable than trying to meet on the 28th, which is during school vacation, a few days after the holiday? In between two, actually.
I have a thought that I'd like to just throw out as a consideration. There's 2 weeks in between November 23rd and December 7th. What if we were to move the December meetings to the 1st and the 3rd so that it doesn't run into the vacations?
Okay, how does that sound to people? So December would be the 7th and the 21st. Is that,
Mommy, I will pay on me.
That would be fine with me.
it works okay, Carly? Okay. And going back to November, is there an objection to meeting on the 23rd, which is 2 days before Thanksgiving? Okay. The other question is February. Our regular meeting is the 8th. The second regular one would be during vacation week. My suggestion would be to move it to the 15th, because if we move it a week later, then it's only a week before, it isn't much time before the meeting in March. The first meeting in March is on the 8th. So is the 15th of February, does that look reasonable? It would be 2 weeks in a row, but usually by then there's enough. If we have two short meetings, so be it. Okay.
How does it mix with required budget votes?
The preliminary budget hearing is held on the 8th. So it's the previous one. That one, it's just usually to approve the retainer agreement for the legal counsel. So while we're working on the budget, it's not it's a good question though. It's not a particularly specific issue that has to be dealt with on that date. So if that's okay, we'll look at that. And then going to May, the reorganizational meeting has become a bit challenging because of the elections and how close it is. Later in this meeting, we're going to look at our policy regarding reorganization, how it reads now, and we might want to think about whether we want to keep it or change it. I don't think it makes sense to try to decide tonight. Policies, we need to have 3 readings anyway, so I think we should do it as a first reading. But we almost cannot schedule our reorganizational meeting for a particular date in May because the past 2 years, the towns of Gill and Montague have had their voting in different months. And we had to wait until after the second town had voted. The issue has become Montague now votes on Tuesday. Both towns used to vote on Monday, and then we could reorganize on Tuesday, even though it was a rather quick turnaround. But Montague this past 2 years, has changed their voting to Tuesday because the town hall people don't work on Friday. And so setting up the voting became an issue for them, and they changed it to Tuesday instead of Monday. It became an issue of having it set up on Monday. So they've changed to Tuesday, in which case we moved our reorganizational meeting to Wednesday this year. But even that can be a bit of a quick turnaround. So we still will have to leave that as a question mark until we're much closer. But I think that's one reason we're going to look at that policy this evening about how we want our policy to read about reorganization, if there's a way to make it less challenging. Any other issues that anyone sees with the tentative calendar for our meetings? And even if we vote it's not at the point where we can't decide if something has to be changed. We have that flexibility. If we get closer to a meeting time or see something that's necessary, we can add a meeting or we can change a date. It's certainly okay. So what's the feeling? Do people want to, next meeting, should we have a printed copy with the changes and then we can vote on it then? Would that make it easier for people? Okay. All righty, that's what we'll do. All right, thank you. And in the meantime, if you see anything that we didn't notice that might be an issue or a conflict, let us know before we get that set. Moving on, we have already established our subcommittee memberships. Thank you all. And discussion of the 6-town regional planning board. I believe Bill gave us some information on that already. Anything else Bill, Brian, or Cassie might have to add?
I don't have anything to add. I'm kind of new to the game, so.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think knowing that the reports are coming forward, I think those would be the appropriate times for us to review what's been sent and potentially share those reports with the entire committee so that everybody's in the loop.
Yes, and thank you, Bill, for mentioning the public forum. That one will be scheduled shortly after that. I think that's good for the public to know. Okay, thank you. The next item, the Mass Association of School Committees, Mass Association of Superintendents has their 2021 joint conference to be held in Hyannis, Mass. It's always the Wednesday through the Saturday of the first week in November. It's available this year in person or virtually, and we voted a couple of meetings ago to fund any member who wishes to attend. And just a reminder, I believe the paperwork says people are still able to sign up through tomorrow. We brought it up at the last meeting, but I believe, Sabrina, if I'm correct, people could still sign up tomorrow if they like to. And registration, is that correct, Sabrina?
Yeah, so yes.
Okay. And registration for the work, for the conference itself goes through Sabrina, because then the district takes care of the bill. And at a later date, we'll get information on the meals available, but
We lost you, Jane. You're still frozen.
okay, was I just pausing for effect?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
We can hear you now.
I just take a breath. When it tells me I'm unstable, I just take a deep breath and pause. And the last one on our agenda tonight for business is a policy review discussion. And again, this is just the first reading because I think it's going to take a bit of discussion, probably more than once. It's policy BDA, which delineates the reorganization. And As I said, it's been a little bit more challenging as things have changed. So what we've done is we've gone back through and included our policy for reorganization and also included a copy of the suggested policy from the Mass Association of School Committees. Theirs is not requiring that reorganization be accomplished within 72 hours of the election, which is what ours says. Theirs allows for reorganization at the next regular meeting. That's the part that I'd like us to think about. They do allow for how to handle it. My question was, if it's an election year and the chair doesn't get reelected, then you wouldn't necessarily have a chair in the interim before the next meeting, but their policy stipulates how that's handled. So it is covered. That the senior member acts as the chair pro tem for anything needed. So I think if people would just maybe reread those again, see what you're thinking. There's a second page that explains the MASC opinion that you should really look at. It can be slightly different for regional school committees than town school committees, and what you might decide to include or not include. So any thoughts at the moment? Okay, we will put that on 2 more times so that we can discuss what we might like to change, or if we just want to keep it the way it is. That is another option. Okay. Given that, the next item is approval of minutes. We have minutes from June 8th, June 22nd, and June 23rd. I will entertain a motion to approve them as a group unless someone would like to do it differently.
So moved.
Second. That was Heather and Cassie.
Okay, Heather and Cassie, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion of the minutes? Okay, we need to roll call. All those in favor of the minutes. Jennifer?
I'm going to abstain just from this because
Sure. Yep.
No.
Yep. Cassie?
Yeah.
Carly?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you. Agenda requests, as always, any agenda requests at the moment we'll write down. Otherwise, please feel free to let Cassie know as vice chair, or Brian or myself. We generally have agenda planning the Tuesday before our next Tuesday meeting. So we meet a week ahead of the meeting to put the agenda together, and then the packet gets put together after that. Our next scheduled meeting at the moment is July 27th. It will be a virtual meeting. It will be at 6:30 unless there's a reason that we need an executive session, and that generally will take place just before, which is at 6 o'clock. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, in that case, it looks like we've gotten through the list. We accomplished a fair amount. At least I feel like I've talked a lot. So thank you so much. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mike
Second, Heather.
and Heather. Any discussion of that? All right, roll call. Jennifer,
Yes.
Cassie,
Yes.
Carly,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Thank you all. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks a lot.